Well, welcome everybody that is joining us. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, whatever time zone you happen to be joining us from. Welcome. And we're having a special live event about MCC's work. So thank you for being here and for your ongoing support of MCC and being part of its story. We're also joined today with MCC Thrift staff and supporters, so special welcome to you as well. Today we're gathering to chat about the Democratic Republic of Congo and the work that's being done there through MCC in regards to clean water and its impact. My name is Mackenzie Schwartz, and I get to serve as the Stewardship Coordinator with MCC Canada, and today I'll be your host and facilitator. I'm joining from my home office on the South Shore of Montreal, and before we get started, I just want to touch on a few housekeeping items. So because we're together on Zoom, everyone will be kept muted throughout the event. If you'd like to submit a question, please feel free to write it in the Q&A function, which should be at the bottom of your screen when you toggle over. You can still write in the chat, but for your questions, you'll use the Q&A function because that's what we'll be looking at. And we will have set aside some time at the end of our session to answer them. Thank you to those who submitted questions ahead of time. We will try and get to those as well. It's unlikely that we'll be able to address every single question, but we're going to try and get through as many as we can in the time that we have. The session is also being recorded, and the recording will be sent out to those who registered via email. So I think that's all I need to cover on that front. So I'll get to the good stuff. Today I'm joined by an exciting and interesting group of my colleagues from both the DR Congo and the US. So let me briefly introduce Jacob Yoder, who is the representative for DR Congo, and Gracia Felo, who is the program assistant in DR Congo. They're going to be sharing the details of the water project and its impact. So if you just want to unmute and say hello, and then I'll introduce our other panelists as well.
Hello, bonjour, mbote, jambo. This is Jacob Yoder here. Pleasure to meet you guys and have this opportunity to get to talk about the great work of our partners here in DR Congo.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. My name is Felo Gracia. I'm the program assistant in MCC DR Congo. I'm a Congolese. I'm so happy to share with you about my country. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, you guys. And then stateside, we have joining us Linda Espenshade, who is the news coordinator at MCC, and Christy Kauffman, who is the multimedia producer for MCC. And both of them recently returned from a trip to DRC, and will be sharing some of their stories and photos and their other impressions. So I'll give you a moment to unmute as well and greet our participants.
Hello, I'm Christy Kauffman, multimedia producer for MCC US, and I had the pleasure of working with Gracia and Jacob, and I'm excited to show you guys some of the stories that we collected while there.
I am Linda Espenshade, and I'm news coordinator for MCC US, and I have the world's best job ever because I get to travel to places like the DRC and see MCC's work on the ground, and then make new friends, and then come back and write about it. And so it's in that capacity that I talk to you today.
Wonderful. Thank you both. Thank you everyone for coming, and looking forward to what you share with us. And that is it for me. So I saw Jacob, you showed your camera for one moment. I'll pass it off to you, Jacob and Felo.
Okay, thank you so much, Jacob. You introduced and tested. Okay, before we start, I don't know if Jacob, do you want to say something before I start?
No, I think you can just go ahead and take it away. Perhaps just by introduction, perhaps it's important to add that, you know, we were so privileged to be able to host both Linda and Christy back January, February, in Kikwit, DR Congo, which is located on the west side of the country, to be able to visit this borehole project that MCC is working on with our partner CFMC. So it's a real privilege to be able to share you know, this story with you, to be able to give you a sense for the incredible impact this project is having in this community. And so me and Felo will work together for the next few minutes to be able to share this story. So go ahead and take it away, Felo.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. We are going to share with you about the clean water in DRC, especially in Kikwit, for the IDPs people. Before that, we want to talk about the history. The problem was the start in 2016 in Kasai. It was a conflict between a militia called Kamwenan Sapu. I think you already know about that. Kamwenan Sapu, between Kamwenan Sapu and the national military forces. Since the conflict affecting other provinces, Central Kasai, Sankuru, and Lomami. And as a result, nearly 1.4 million people has been displaced from Kasai, including around 800,000 children, according to the UNICEF message. Then, after this conflict, a lot of people displaced from Kasai to other places. Other IDPs went to Angola, others to the other province, and around 24,000 came to Kikwit in the beginning. In the beginning, in 2017, around 24,000 came to Kikwit, represent around 6 households. Especially the Mennonite brother, one of the MCC Congo partner, received around 3,000 IDPs, who represents around 400 households. It was in the beginning in 2017. Then after that, now in 2023, they now other IDPs return to Kasai, others go to the other people. Now in Kikwit, we have around 7,000 IDPs who stay in Kikwit and decide to continue our lives in Kikwit. So in this number, the CFMC, the Mennonite brother, take care of 350 households, who represent around 2,040 IDPs. We add also that other Mennonite partners receive also the IDPs. Mennonite Church in Chikapa and Mennonite Evangelic Mbujimai. But in Kikwit, it was the Mennonite brother who received the IDPs people. When the Mennonite receive IDP people, they begin to respond with the MCC fund. There is a lot of projects. Firstly, it was the food distribution. The Mennonite brother starts with the food distribution to the IDPs people. And after the food distribution, the Mennonite brother go to the education project. The food distribution starts in 2017 until in 2020, and the education project starts in 2018 until now. There is a project in education support. In this project, the Mennonite brother continue to give the supply to the children, and also to train the teacher in trauma healing and how they can take care of the children they have in the school. Another project the Mennonite brother involved is the health project, the primary health project. Mennonite brother involved also the health project, the primary health project, and this project provide the free consultation and the medicine to IDPs, the IDPs who continue to stay in Kikwit. We have also another project which the Mennonite brother implements. It is the agriculture project. The Mennonite brother implement also an agriculture project for 200 households, both IDPs and the host family. This project starts in 2022 and it's continue. And we have also the boy all project that we wanna tell you to this time in detail. This project starts in 2020. The first borehole was built in 2021. The second in 2022, and the last one will be built in this year, 2023, in Kikwit. This project, the borehole, provide clean water to the IDPs. We add also another thing that Kikwit has a problem of water. People, just a few districts have access to the clean water in the town, because also in this town of Kikwit, there is no electricity. The population is around 1 million in the Kikwit. So the government is unable to provide the clean water to all the population. Some of the districts have access to the clean water, and especially where in Kanzombi area, where a lot of a lot of IDPs live, they don't have access to the clean water. So they look to the spring to 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 get the water, but a lot of time the spring are not clean. The water they get to the springs are not clean. So people have nothing to do. They take this water. So the Borehole project is a response to this need to the community, not only for the IDPs people who came, but also for the Kikwit population. And then we can see that after the construction of the borehole, a lot of people of Kikwit was so happy to take this clean water, because firstly it is near the house. So concern the impact, it reduce the problem of fighting. A lot of time when children went to the spring to get water, it was complicated because there was a lot of people, and sometimes children was fighting because before getting water. But with the presence of the borehole near the house, it reduced the fighting of the people, of the children. And also people say that they are so happy for the borehole because it helped them to have time to go to school, because sometimes people went firstly in the morning to get water, and they make a lot of time to the source, to the spring, and they go to school later, or they don't go to school. But with the construction of the borehole, it's near the house, and the people have now time to take water, and to wash, and to go easily to the school. Especially the IDPs people, they was so vulnerable because they was it was their first time to come to the city. So if it is your first time in an area, and to go to get water, it was so double complicated for the IDPs people. So they are so happy now the borehole is near their home. Another impact is the unable people, the unable IDPs, or the elder one. It was complicated for them to get the water. But now, because the water is near their home, they are able to go to get water. Others lost the children during the harm. They don't have children to help them to get water. So it was complicated to go to the source, to go to the spring to get water, because it was so far. Sometimes people met 1 kilometer or 2 kilometers to go to the spring. But now the borehole is near their home, so they are so able, and it is easy for them to get this clean water. And during the evaluation, we also saw that the borehole, the clean water, reduce also the the diseases in the area, the rates of diseases in the Kanzombi area. So it is something good for the population, because other IDPs talk to them that before they bore all, they get a lot of problem of the bail aid, but now they have the clean water, and so they can use this easily for washing the clothes, for washing the body, for washing the house, and so they are so happy. This is what I can say about the clean water in Kikwit and also the context. So I will give to Jacob. He will share. He will add and share also about the global context of the project in MCC DRs and the Mennonite brother partner. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Felo, for giving that great overview of the context in which this project arose, but also the impacts of this project over the last couple years. I would like to just step back really quickly to give sort of an overview of the program before drilling back down into this borehole project. So if you could just look at this map on the right side, this map represents all of the projects in MCC DR Congo. And so each of these bubbles here represent the size of the budget for each project. To the left side, you have all of the current MCC projects sort of ordered by size of project. And so this sort of gives you a sense for a lot of where MCC resources are going to in DR Congo. And so what you notice is on the eastern side, there's a lot of bubbles and they're really quite big. And sort of the reason for that is because there's a lot of conflict today in the east. There's a lot of displacement, a lot of humanitarian needs, a lot of development needs. And so that's where most of MCC resources are allocated. But looking over to the western side of DR Congo, I think you can see three bubbles there. You see on the far left, there's a bubble in Kinshasa. In the middle, you see a bubble which is in Kikwit. And then that third bubble on the right is Chikapa. And so the projects on this western side are mostly linked to the conflict that arose in 2016, 2017. As Felo described, millions of people displaced, you know, children and parents separated. Many people were killed, and a lot of folks moved from this third bubble in Chikapa towards that middle bubble, which represents Kikwit. And so in the early days of this conflict, back in 2016, 17, 18, CFMC, which is the Mennonite partner, the Mennonite Brethren Church, which is based in Kikwit, were receiving all of these displaced folks. And they had their own initiatives to be able to support them. They were in homes, they were giving them food, just people from the church were giving them clothes, different things, but it was the numbers were too great, and the burden was more than what CFMC were able to manage alone. And so that's where MCC sort of began to get involved with CFMC to develop initially humanitarian development responses, so the food aid that Gracia referred to earlier, but then soon after, another set of projects that were more targeting sort of the development needs. So many households didn't want to go back to Chikapa. Chicapa, that's where folks lost their husbands, their wives, their children. There was a lot of trauma there. And so they wanted to be able to stay and integrate into life in Kikwit. So that's where MCC and CFMC come in. So I don't know, Cameron, would you be able to click on the slicer there to the left, which says Western? And we'll dive into these projects in the Western part of the country. So here you see a list of, I think, 8 projects, the top 7 of which are dealing exclusively with sort of the impacts of this conflict back in 16, 17, 18. And so in Chicapa, the folks that are being impacted by that, that are benefiting from these set of projects, which is on your far left or far right, are returnees that left Kasai and then are now coming back. But in Kikwit, in Kwilu, these folks have decided to just stay in Kikwit. They have the trauma is too great to return home. They don't have the resources to return home. They want to reintegrate into life in Kikwit, which is that central bubble there. And so as Felo mentioned, there's a number of projects that we're working on today to be able to address sort of the needs of these folks to be able to continue to rebuild their lives as they're attempting to reintegrate into this new life. So Felo mentioned education. Education is expensive, and so folks that don't have quite the means to be able to send their children to school, they require some sort of assistance from MCC and CFMC to be able to send their kids to school, whether that's school kits, whether that's school fees. MCC and CFMC are there to be able to support those needs. The same is true with health needs. One of the things that IDPs, which we call internally displaced people, was sharing with CFMC early in 2018 and 19 was that their children were getting sick from different diseases, from malaria, from typhoid, from things that we don't really think of today, like measles. And so CFMC partnered with MCC to be able to put together a health project that would provide primary health care to households that were internally displaced. But what was the root cause of these health issues? In part, it was the fact that it was hard to get clean water. And so that's where this project really, really comes in. And so CFMC, working with the local community, put together a 3-year project proposal, which they submitted to MCC, which would dig a borehole, which is like a deep, deep well, 120 meters or so, one borehole per year. And so the last 2 years, 2 boreholes were built in the summer. That's the dry season. So that's when a lot of the digging and the construction work can be done. And then in this 3rd year, a 3rd borehole is going to be built. And that's why we're always seeking support from our friends and neighbors across the sea to be able to really support the Congolese community, the Mennonite Brethren Mennonite Church, to be able to support their own community. A lot of these households hosted IDPs in the early days, an incredible burden economically on the family. And so that's really what MCC is doing here, is supporting communities to be able to better host those who are suffering from short-term vulnerability, essentially, and to be able to help folks get back on their feet so they can support themselves and their children for generations to come. And so that's really the value of this sort of multi-pronged approach, with different types of projects addressing different root causes of the vulnerability that we see today in Kikwit. And I'm so glad that you were able to listen to Felo today, because he's played such a huge role in putting this project together as the project assistant. He also comes from the CFMC Church, from the Mennonite Brethren Church in Congo, and has a real heart for the people. You can just see the way that he interacts with folks when he's in the field, with beneficiaries, with families. You know, he's the type of guy that, like, everyone, even families in the community are naming their children after him, because of sort of the impact that, you know, he, alongside CFMC and MCC, are making in the community. So we're really just great for your support, and I hope this gives you a sort of a deeper sense for sort of the who, what, why, and how this project has come about. So I think that's it from our end. We'll look forward to hearing from the rest of this panel.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing, Jacob and Felo. I'm sure a lot of you have some questions that have been inspired by that, and we'll get to that in a moment. For now, I'll pass it off to Linda and Christy.
All right, we have a pictures to show you, a lot of which may sound similar to what Jacob and Felo said. When I think about our trip there, one of the people who comes to my mind is this woman. Her name is Charlotte Masango, and I think you can tell by this picture just the sadness that she feels. I was especially struck by her because she lost pretty much everything on her trip to Kikwit. She was leaving the rebels set fire. I'm going to call them rebels. There's the militia group set fire to her village, and so she and her husband and her 2 children ran. Those are her 2 children on that picture, but they were a bit older when they actually left. On her way, she fell into this deep mining hole, and she broke her leg and her arm, and it was never properly fixed. So along the way, it took them a while because she broke her arm and her leg, but along the way, she managed to get some help and move along slowly. But her son died along the way, and her husband was killed. And by the time they got to Kikwit, where her niece and nephew were living, or niece and her niece's husband were living, it was just her and her daughter. And then 1 year after they were there, her daughter died. So it was literally just her. Now, I guess that's part of what grabbed me about her story. But the other thing that was significant was, because she was disabled, she had a really hard time getting to the spring to get water. So if she couldn't persuade one of the kids to go, and she kind of just rolled her eyes at me when she said, if I can't, you know how children are. Anyway, so what she did instead was to walk to Kanzombi, an area that does have one of CEFMC's boreholes. And she would walk there, and it would take about 30 minutes, she said, to walk there, but instead it took her like 3 hours. And she would go there to get clean water. And fortunately, her aunt lived there, and therefore she could stay with her aunt for a couple days and rest before bringing clean water back to where she was living with her niece. We mentioned to her that there might be a new borehole coming to her community, and her response was, if a new borehole is settled here, it is a grace. I won't suffer again. I will be liberated. And as you know, it's like sometimes when we write about people or talk about people, they come sort of caricatures in a way, but I hope this picture shows you just the humanity, the same person who is deeply wounded in her soul was also able to welcome me and to be happy. Not happy, I don't know if happy is the word, but to be welcoming and embrace me. I guess one of the things that I thought about with her was, man, you know, she has suffered so much. At the very least, I am glad that we can give her some clean water, so her life is a little bit easier. Christy.
Yes, so I wanted to follow that story with a story of Dene Masamba. She's the woman here in the red. She told us about how she came from Kasai and she came with barely anything. And when she got here, they had to walk pretty far to get water. Benet is in charge of taking money at this new borehole that MCC and CFMC installed. So she herself is an IDP. She's just internally displaced from Kasai because of the violence. And a little behind the scenes on my conversation with her, I had a bit of an interview with her through a translator, and she was having difficulty hearing because she had hearing damage from the violence that happened when she fled, gunshots and such. So when I talked to her, she got this opportunity to, she was a bit empowered by the fact that she was also in charge. I think her story shows a little bit about how the internally displaced people are also involved in the distribution of the water, and she is taking the money, and you'll see that she is dressed very well as well. And she told me that she wants to save up to take classes and become a dressmaker. She had taken one class before, but since she's like starting over a little bit here in this new town in Kikwit, she has this ambition to start her own workshop to make dresses. So she was really a good example of empowerment through this project.
This person's name is Jacqueline Kafuti. Some people call her Mama Kafuti, and she has a couple of other names, but essentially she's like the mother of all displaced people who have come to Kanzombi, a section of Kikwit. She's a unique woman because she herself is an orphan. And so that gives her an extra special heart for orphans, so much so that she has brought 4 orphans from Kasai to live with her. She was the first person to like really embrace the displaced people who were coming into town. She brought them into her home, and she convinced other people to bring them into her home. Here she is at one of the springs, and she was very, very clear in her frustration about the unclean water. She's like, not only can you drink it, the young people who come to get water are getting into fights because they have one pipe coming out from the spring, and you have what seemed like 50 kids trying to get water from that one pipe, and everybody wants to get home, and so or get to school, and so there are fights. And at least in the beginning, the displaced people were the ones that kept getting pushed to the back. The little boy or young teen that you see on the right, the one boy that you see on the right, he is the one who collects a fee for the water from the spring. Now, I say this because but but don't hold him personally accountable for what I'm going to say next. Mama Kafuti pointed to that area sort of between the man in purple and the man in red, and she was just really disgusted and disdainful. She said sometimes the people who collect the money will, instead of taking money from the young women, will take them back behind that area and take advantage of them in sexual ways. And she's like, the new boreholes have not just given us clean water, they have made our communities safer. And that just really stuck with me. The fear that some of those young women must have felt as they headed for the spring to get water. Next one, Christy. Part of the reason that that these kinds of things can happen without adult intervention is it takes a while to get to the water, and you see sort of the pathway that it takes to get there. Think about doing that yourself and putting a 6-gallon jerry can on your head, and think about how well you can walk up and down that path on flip-flops. That was the one of the paths that people needed to take to get to the spring. Now, what's ironic to me is I'm looking at the spring water and I'm going, wow, it looks amazing. I would want to drink from that water. It looked clean, and it was like so much water coming out. And I'm like, I would go drink from that. And ironically, though, what we're told is that the land that is above that spring is all the parasites and the bacteria that is left by animal defecation, even human defecation, leaches into the water that comes into the spring water, and therefore they are getting sick, and stomach issues are a big problem. Next one. This is Mama Kafuti, just showing you what the borehole kind of looks like. There's a borehole, and it's piped up to this giant tank at the top of the screen, and then it comes out into a what they call a fountain. You can just see a little bit of it on the spring, or you can see a little bit of it with the trying to think what that's called, the little bit of grasses, the grass hut. That's where people will come and get water from a pipe at this particular borehole. Just wanted you to see what that looked like. Next, Christy. Okay, I'm going to try to move through this next part super quickly so you have time for questions. This woman in the green skirt, her name is Germaine, and she has 5 children. But she used to have to go to the spring. Her daughters used to go to the spring, and it would sometimes take them up to 3 hours until they could get the water and get back home. But now they have water to drink. They have water before to do laundry. And it's all completely clean. Next one, Christy. Okay, and as Felo mentioned earlier, this family, I wanted to say before that this family, they lost their husband and father. They literally saw him beheaded. And so you can imagine the trauma that they come with. And when they come, here's this family, this mother and 5 children, and CEFMC has just kind of surrounded them with hugs. And that's kind of how I view it. They surround them with hugs by giving them clean water, by giving them health care, by next one. And by helping them at school, they get they get support for school. You know that picture? Can you go back one, Christy? The picture there is of kids playing a foot game called Zanga. And it was just absolutely a joy to watch the kids have the energy and play together, displaced people and host families. At first, there was conflict between the displaced people and the host families, but now they are doing much better in terms of getting along. And it was just a joy to watch them play together. Okay, we'll keep going. This is Jermaine working in a field, working with cassava. That's another thing that CEFMC does, is provide them with fields where they can farm. And many of them, I learned, were farmers before they came. And so to be able to farm here and harvest food that they can help to sustain their own families just really was empowering to them. I loved how it seemed to make them feel, to be able to go to work and bring home food for their families. Here's another picture of Mama Kafuti. And Mama Kafuti, I asked her, why do you do this? You know, why do you help displaced people? And she said, well, one of the things was, she said, I was lonely before they arrived. And now I have all of these friends that come around. She says, if I'm in my house when I have laundry and displaced people pass by, they say, Madam, you have to stop. Let us wash your clothes instead of you. I'm reading because that's one of the things that she said exactly. When they go to the fields and they go to work, they gave her that big stack of cassava that was on her head. The other reason she says she helps, she says, I'm a Christian and I am an elder in the church. The Bible teaches us that we have to love others. So I am motivated simply by that. And the leaders of the CEFMC will say that one of the big benefits in their mind to this whole project is that people have come to the church and found a home in the church and belong there, and they have learned more, they have grown in their faith, and the churches have grown as displaced people have found their faith strengthened in the church. Back to you, Christy.
Yeah, I'm going to share a video that I took and then share a little bit of behind the scenes from that video. So one moment as I get that pulled up. And this is following Juliana to the old location where she had collected water. That's the young girl pictured here.
It is very important for this community because they have the problem of water. The source where they get water is so far. With your support, we can build this borehole.
I have one more photo to show. When we went to the new borehole site, we went, and the first time there wasn't anyone there because no one had really known that there was going to be a new borehole. But the second time we went back, there was all these people. We went back to take drone shots of it, just me and the photographer Justin, which I should have mentioned earlier. Justin Makingara is the photographer for many of the photos you saw today. He's a Congolese photographer that we hired, that we worked with along with Jacob and Felo and me, Linda. But this was the group that accumulated when they heard we came back. And when we arrived in the Land Cruiser, kids were shouting borehole, borehole in their local language. And us coming back to look at the location again was kind of a confirmation for them that, oh, this is actually happening in our neighborhood. So that was just a really exciting moment. And I just wanted to end with a little quote from Reverend Kambila, who is the General Secretary for CFMC. Our whole project is especially important because water is life. Even our body is 70% water. Without water, there is no life. He definitely stressed the importance of water in my conversation with him. So thank you very much.
Thank you both for sharing. Those were beautiful photos and really cool stories, and just so just the mix of both very heartwarming and really exciting in this community. And also, you know, there's that facet of, you know, there is some conflict and there is some trauma that's happened. And so thank you so much for sharing all of those things together. I do want to get to questions because we don't have a ton of time left. I have a few questions here that have been passed along to me. One first question from Judith Brooke: are local people trained in maintenance of the wells / piping? What are the number of installations and people served in the past year with water? So I'm not sure if Jacob or Felo, you want to tackle that question. Go ahead.
Felo, you can go for it.
Sorry, I don't get the question well. I don't see it.
Well, I'll repeat. Are local people trained in the maintenance of the wells or the piping? Did you hear me, Felo?
Hello?
Hi, did you hear the question?
Oh.
Okay, yeah, thank you for the question. Concern the IDPs, some of them live in the host family, and others in the host housing. They have in the beginning in one of the project, the CFMC implements was also the income generative activities. With this project, the CFMC gave to the IDPs some money to start the business. So some of them have some money to have our own house and be with their family. I don't know if it's okay.
Yeah, and let me add also that as far as like the maintenance is concerned, yes, there are folks that in the community that have this training, and so they're available to be able to do regular maintenance on the borehole when that is required. And I think there was a second part to that question that you could go ahead and repeat if you don't mind.
Oh, sure. I'm just scrolling back to my question. Are people trained in the maintenance of the wells? Is that the part of the question?
Okay, yeah. So yeah, that was the first part I responded to. I don't know if there was a second part to that.
I think Felo answered it was more along the lines of like, what do the IDPs do for housing? I think that was pretty well answered. Perfect. I will move on to another question. How do you prioritize which communities get the borehole projects?
How do you prioritize which communities receive the borehole projects? Felo, do you want to take that?
Okay, thank you. We have a criteria. Firstly, we choose the community where we have a lot of IDPs. Then we build the borehole in this community. But to get the water, everyone can get this water. In IDPs or the host community can get this water, but they pay a few money, and this money contributes to the to help for the maintenance and to pay also the vendors.
Correct. Okay, let me find another question here. One question I had from Mackenzie Graham: how does MCC apply a peace lens to this clean water project?
Yeah, so that is a great question. And so you know, there's a couple ways. So first of all, it's consulting the IDP community about, you know, the sort of the perspective from women, because it's normally women who are charged with the collection of water. And so CFMC does do sort of sensitizations with families to encourage some sort of shared responsibility within the household, especially in education projects, because if you know that there's always the possibility that women, and especially girls, don't have time to be able to do their homework if they're always collecting water. And so, you know, that's one way in which that sort of question is addressed. The second one is through our education project, which is in some ways adjacent to this, because in our education project with CFMC, trauma healing has been included as part of the trainings for teachers, because CFMC and the IDP community was recognizing that there was a lot of trauma in the community, especially among children, and that was impacting the results at school, and it was impacting, you know, social cohesion even at school. And so integrating trauma healing not only into the education project, but also the health project, to ensure that both teachers and doctors were equipped to be able to better understand and manage and receive folks that had been displaced by war and were suffering from trauma. And so integrating that into various projects in order to help folks heal, but also help the community better relate with their neighbors. Is there something you wanted to add, Felo, or is that okay?
Yeah, it's okay.
Wonderful.
I can, sorry. Yeah,
no, go ahead.
I can, yeah, okay, thank you. As Jacob said, CFMC work with the teachers and with the doctors in peace and the trauma healing. It contributes to the to make peace in the IDPs community, and also in the community, in the host community. And also after the construction of the borehole, CFMC make also sensitize the host community to protect the construction. So when they sensitize the community, they also talked about the peace, because when people came to get water, they encourage them to the peace. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much for such full answers. I think in some of the questions that were asked beforehand, you answered them already in your presentation. So I'm gonna move us towards wrapping up, just because we are already at the top of the hour. So I wanted to just thank you so much for joining us, fellow Jacob. I really appreciate your expertise and just such a again, giving us such a full understanding of what's going on. And thank you so much to Linda and Christy as well. Those photos, again, were so beautiful, and your personal accounts and stories were so moving. So thank you so much for joining us and sharing. And thank you to everyone else as well, our supporters and our friends, our neighbors in MCC Thrift, for being here and for your questions. And I'm sorry if we didn't get to your question particularly. We never know how it's going to go with the quick Q&A, but thank you so much for your curiosity, and that is just so appreciated. So as we leave this space, I just want to leave you all with a short benediction. May the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face toward you and give you peace. Amen. Thank you so much, everyone. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.